I was very lucky when I was young. Along with being a part-time leasing agent in college, I did maintenance for a while. It's hard. Getting on a roof when it's 100 degrees outside, troubleshoot an air conditioner when there's no shade. I mean, that's hard work. You want this property to be clean, and you want everything to be fixed, and you want everything to be shiny, and I want that too. Where's my space to breathe? Where's my space to innovate? The maintenance team talks to our residents much more than the office does. You may see me when you move in, but you may not see me again, especially if you're happy.
In this episode of Humans of Multifamily, I sit down with Jon Cooke, Vice President of Operations at Bell Partners, Inc. From leasing agent to executive, Jon shares how curiosity, mentorship, and a willingness to ask questions shaped his journey. We talk about imposter syndrome, staying coachable, and why vulnerability and gratitude are crucial in leadership. It's a grounded, honest look at what it really takes to grow, only on Humans of Multifamily.
I am one of those people who thinks that human touch and conversation cannot be replicated.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer I'm gonna live. Maybe one day there's a robot that walks in and changes your light bulb, and I just think there's always gonna be a need. People need people.
Where do you feel like the opportunity is for technology companies to come in and further automate things that should be automated that you're not seeing today?
Ooh, that's a tough word.
Property managers lose hours chasing rent, while delinquency and filing costs add up to massive losses. The financial impact? Millions in unpaid rent sold to collections agencies that recover just 20 to 30%, while taking a huge cut. Now, the Kelsey you trust for leasing helps you recover more rent in-house, reducing reliance on agencies and maximizing revenue. With Collections AI, Kelsey automates rent and move-out collections, from the first missed payment to move-out, while ensuring compliance across jurisdictions. Easily train and set up Kelsey on your company's collections process, including CARES and state-regulated workflows. She doesn't just set reminders. Kelsey answers resident questions, tracks promise to pay dates, and follows up persistently to keep payments on track. Need oversight? Corporate teams can monitor collections in real time with Zuma's dashboard, while site teams use the Chrome Assistant to track payments and even respond as Kelsey when needed. Kelsey also evaluates resident risk with AI, providing instant insights to help you make smarter renewal decisions. The impact? Doubles collections velocity, reduces filings, cuts site team workload by 85%. Stop leaving rent revenue on the table. Let Zuma's Collections AI handle the heavy lifting while you focus on what matters. Get started today.
We didn't change headcount. We said, we're gonna kind of target these tasks that, as I would say, don't really add value. You know, I'm prone to say, if you give me a rent check and I post it really, really quickly, you're not gonna stay because I post your rent check really fast. Something breaks and I fix it really quickly, or if you need me and I respond really quickly, those are the things. And so the thought process all those many years ago, this is 2012-ish, shooting from the hip, was to, how do we do those, how do we take these things that have to be done to free you up to do the things that really add to the resident experience? Not everybody does it that way. And so I think we're all trying to find out what works for us, and I think you have to be true, like most things in life, to what your company is about, what you want to be, where you're trying to go, and evolve and understand that what works today, you know, one of the best things about trying new things is that they don't always work. And when they don't work, you go, man, that was a colossal failure. That was a Led Zeppelin of epic proportions. But what did go right? And then what should we have done differently? And if you can be honest and diagnose, you know, there's some times where we've all been handed things where, you know, the kind of edict is this has to work. You know, come Hades or high water, this has to work. And you make it work. But when you can really go in saying, hey, we don't know everything, you know, we have to figure it out. I am one of those people who thinks that human touch and conversation cannot be replicated.
Yeah.
And I just believe there will always be a need. You know, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna live. Maybe one day there's a robot that walks in and changes your light bulb, and that'll be super cool if that happens, but I don't know that we're there quite yet, so we'll see. But I just think there's always going to be a need. People need people. We are a species that wants to be surrounded by others, and we want efficiency, but I don't know that we necessarily want efficiency at the cost of loneliness or at the cost of isolation, maybe is the better word. I think there is a middle ground. To me, the win in centralization is how do I take these things that don't, you just need them to happen, the way you just need to breathe, right? You just need this to happen. How do I take those things that really don't add to your experience? How do I make them efficient and fast and clean? But the reason I'm doing that is to make your life as a customer better and your life as an employee better. I don't want you, I was really good once upon a time, many, many dark ages ago, at sending out late letters. I don't know that I made the company any more value by being really good at sending out late letters, but I had to do it and it had to get done. And so how do we take those kind of things and say, look, it has to happen, but you add value because you're a great salesperson. You add value because you are fantastic when a resident comes in just ready to explode. You're great at building teams. You're great at leading people. You're great at those are the things that make companies go up in value, that really make performance go off the chart. And it's just my opinion. I'm just one person on the ladder. But to me, that's where the win of centralization is. Freeing that time up for creativity, to problem solve, to be like, we've done it this way for 30 years. Why? Well, it's hard to stop and ask those questions when you've got this laundry list of stuff that I have to get done, and I have to get it done by 6 o'clock because I have a child to pick up, and dinner's got to get done, and I got to go to the grocery store. And if we could free people up to really and not everybody wants to be creative. We'll find the ways to fill that space, and I think we will. But to me, that's the cool part of human capital is what can people really do when you set them free, and what cool stuff can they bring you and go, hey, I had a little bit of time, so start working on this, and I think it's cool. And you're like, hey, that's pretty cool, Bob. And you're thinking inside, holy cow, this is a game changer. But if we don't give Bob or Sally that space, it's going to be an idea that they never get to.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, particularly from my own lived experience and the company's lived experience. When we started, my co-founder actually was a leasing agent.
Okay, there you go.
At a family-run property management company. And one of the things we realized, especially in that asset, which was like a class C or D asset, was people weren't, it was really, you come in and you'd have to build a relationship with them. Like they'd kind of look at some properties and then they'd choose the one that they liked or that they had a relationship. And even when I was looking for my own apartment in LA, I made the mistake of impulsively choosing an apartment in San Francisco where I did one tour and just was like, I don't want to spend too much time on this decision. I'm just going to choose this place. And it ended up being so poor of a decision that I actually moved out of San Francisco to LA because I was so burned by San Francisco. I chose the wrong area. It was across a freeway. There was terrible homeless population. Just wasn't it was not a good choice. That when I went to LA, I took the time to I did 15 apartment tours, and I really made sure that I spent time. And one of my takeaways was when you do 15 apartment tours, things kind of blend together, right? Some assets kind of stand out for some reason. But what really stands out is the relationship that you build with the team, the on-site team.
Yes.
Or the leasing agent that's doing the tour, right? How do I feel? What is that classic line? People don't remember what you do, it's how you make them feel.
Right.
And I think similarly for doing an apartment tour and choosing a place to live, it feels the same way. So I really hear that. I think the other thing that you mentioned is I actually don't think when people say AI is taking your job, it's taking parts of your job that it should take.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But that doesn't mean that you should be doing less work. It means you should actually index on the things that humans are innately good at. So for example, the way we look at it is, I think it's too simplistic to say AI is taking a leasing agent role, is taking a maintenance role. In every role, there are jobs to be done. You have a job description, you have your roles and responsibilities. There are things that need to be done. There are work activities. Now, if you take a full role and you break it down into what are the 20 work activities that a leasing agent does, I think the better way to think about this is how do you actually redefine these roles? how do we take all the jobs to be done, all the functional roles at a property, and actually rewrite the definitions of what it means to be a leasing agent, what it means to be a maintenance coordinator, what it means to be a community person on site. So I think that's a more important framing, and I think it's too simplistic to say AI is taking your role. I think instead of a leasing agent, like you said, spending time following up or doing these mundane tasks, let's like actually rewrite, instead of only doing a tour, maybe now you take the time to actually write a handwritten letter to every renter, prospective renter. You write a note, you give them a gift card, you go and mail it to them. You take the extra effort to amplify what is human. You send them a video, I really enjoyed the tour. And I think that's where, to your point, let's like rewrite these roles and double down on the human component of those roles.
No, I agree 1,000%. I think we have all purchased something where it was not a grab off the shelf transaction. You've bought a car, house, rented an apartment, something. And I think most people tend to remember when they've just had a really great interaction. If that person had 87 other things going on simultaneously, that even the best person, that interaction gets watered down. There is a gentleman, I cover Fort Lauderdale. I usually fly into the Fort Lauderdale airport every time, and I rent a car when I'm down there. And I've been doing that for about 5 years now. There's a gentleman that works at the Enterprise at the Fort Lauderdale airport. And I don't know how long he's been working there, but in the years I've been traveling down there. And it's one of those relationships where he doesn't know my name, and I'm not really sure I know his, but when you see somebody. And every time I see him, he just has the best attitude. And because of that, and because of the way he talks to me and takes the time, he could just hand me forms and here's your car, go over there. It could be very assembly line if he wanted it to be. But either he or the culture of Enterprise, I don't know if I can call out businesses. I don't want to get in trouble, so I can censor myself if I need to. Car rental company X. But he has decided that that's not the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure that I stop and listen and care. And because of that, I remember him. And because of that, I will keep coming back. But to your comment, we have to free people up for that. One of the things, I think that I try to challenge my team with is, I tend to manage regional managers who manage the property managers. We all get a lot of email. I get it. Email is the best thing and the worst thing because it's easy and it's easy, right? So we can rattle it off. You get 4,000 in a nanosecond. But I really try to stress to them, be present. It will be there. Like, you can take a little time out of your day when you're on site to stop and really pay attention to what's going on site because your people need. Do we have to walk the property and make sure the units look good and make sure of course, all those things have to happen. But that's also time to invest in your folks. And it sounds so simplistic. It's like duh, John, you got to invest in your people. But it doesn't happen everywhere. If it did, it would never have to be said out loud. But I can tell when a manager is there, just how they react. How do they react to the regional? Is it, oh my gosh, they're here and I'm nervous? Or is it like, oh, this is somebody that's here to make me better and help me be successful? And, when we can free everybody up to do those kind of things. I think AI scares a lot of people, as I understand, because I think people see technology sometimes and they think, well, I'm not going to have a job. And that's scary. I've not had jobs. I understand. That's a weird place to be in. We perhaps as an industry, maybe it's on us to do a better job of kind of getting to the point you just got at, of saying, look, this is not here because I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of you. Will efficiencies maybe occur? Like, I'm not going to lie to you and say that's never going to happen. But what I want to do is make you better. I love the way you treat people. So the things that keep you from treating people, from taking time with your residents, with your customers, let me help you. Let me not give you so burned out that you're like, man, I've got all this stuff and I've got to send. I'd love to send 10 handwritten thank you notes. I love doing that. I think correspondence is awesome, but I don't have time. And so it gets put on a pile, and that pile gets larger and larger and larger. And then by the time you get around to it, it's been 6 months, and you just wake up and go, holy cow, I really would have enjoyed that, but I had to do this instead. But this task could have been done by somebody, something. I think we are all, and I know you've heard this before, we're all renting empty boxes with mostly white walls, appliances. There's nothing, some are shinier than others. It's absolutely true. I've managed a spectrum. I've managed stuff that you would go, wow. And I've managed stuff that you would go, wow. But at the heart of what they were all the same, right? And they were all being, filled with people who were looking for the same thing, for a home, and for someone to care about their living experience. And whether it's an A or a D or anywhere in between, if we can find the people who have the aptitude and the personality, but then give them the space, and magic happens. I mean, I've seen properties where the only thing we did was change the people. We didn't come in with a multi-million-dollar renovation. We didn't start painting things and, hey, here's a new playground and, hey, the pool's we didn't do any of that. But you got the right people with the right attitude and the right leadership and the room to be great. And all of a sudden they were. And properties that people had left for dead, all of a sudden you go, wow, this is a really great problem. It was great the whole time.
That's really interesting. So you've actually had the opportunity to actually like A/B test this. Like literally
perhaps unknowingly.
Unknowingly,
Yes.
but literally the same property with the same amenities and the same no renovation, and changing the people actually changed the
Absolutely.
occupancy, the NOI, all that.
The entire, we had a,
Wow.
when I was much younger and certainly much dumber, there's debates to be had on how dumb I am today, but I was definitely much dumber then. One of my early leaders gave me some of the best advice I'd ever gotten. I'll give you a little bit of context for the story because I think it's kind of a funny story to me. I had been with this company a very short time. I had hired this manager for this property that was struggling, and boy, I thought I had hired, like, just build the statue, get the plaque ready, employee of the month, it's done. I've hired the best manager, and I'm just patting myself on the back. I'm telling my boss, can't wait for you to meet. It's going to be great. We do this, and my boss says, oh, great property tour. John, will you want me to the car? Absolutely. That's not it. And I'm just, what are you talking about? I'm just thinking, like, man, I'm just a genius. I'm the smartest guy in property, man. I'm coming for your job. Like, you better put your resume together. And she just looked at me and she's like, it's not it. And she said, if you don't learn anything from me, learn that it's all about the people. And if you get the people right, everything else will fall into place. That happened. That conversation was in 2006-ish, and I've never forgotten it. And I've told anyone who will listen the same thing because I've seen it played out. And that example was exactly that. It was a property that struggled. It was in a tough submarket. It needed some TLC, but that TLC was probably not coming. And you really had two choices at that point. We could kind of keep limping along and say, you know what, it is what it is, and it's always going to stink, and we're just going to let it stink. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at it. So one thing you'll learn about me is sometimes to my own detriment, I'm highly competitive.
Yeah.
And I like to be the best, and I like to win. And when you tell me it can't be done, I know it sounds kind of
talk about that.
Cliche. A lot of people are like, oh, of course, but I just Walt Disney has a quote that I'm going to totally mess up, but I'm a huge Disney-phile, and he has a quote that says something in the neighborhood of it's fun to do the impossible. And so it's fun when you see that, nobody thinks you can pull it off, and you just figure out a way. It just makes you want to, lean in. To me, at least, it makes me want to lean in. There's some properties, understandably, some folks go, I don't want to touch that. Like, that's going to suck all the oxygen. I got 8 or 9 other properties I have to worry about. I don't have that bandwidth. I tend to look at it the other way. I just want to fix it. I just think can we pull it off? Can we do it? And in that case, and in a lot of cases, in my experience, the years I've been doing this, if you truly get the people right, everything else just falls into place. We didn't go start, again, we didn't start painting things. We didn't start doing renovations, apartment upgrades. The apartments were still old. They were still pretty beat up. But we just got people in who didn't buy into the narrative that this property was kind of the Skid Row of properties. They weren't going to have it. They weren't going to accept it. They weren't going to come to work. One of the best leasing agents I've ever had worked at this property. I know him to this day. He's a great guy. If he listens to this, he'll know I'm talking about him. This was a property, he came every day and he wore a suit and tie. At a property that you'd be like, you're wearing a suit and tie at this property? This isn't, downtown A+. But to him, he was offering a downtown A+ experience. And the manager that we brought in demanded A+, experiences and A+ quality. We hired a maintenance manager who, instead of saying, here's all the reasons it can't be done, said, let me figure out a way to do it. This was a company where we painted everything in-house. So we didn't use outside paint contractors. This one property had painted everything out of house. They didn't paint anything in-house. Long story as to why. But I hired him and I said, 1 out of 4. Just give me 1 out of 4. I'm not expecting miracles. Just give me 1 out of 4. A couple weeks later, I come by for my routine visit. Says, how many apartments do you think I painted last couple weeks? 100%. After I had been told it was an impossible, it can't be done. These units are too bad of shape. No one can do it. We went from contracting everything to 100% in-house that we could, other than like cleaning and stuff like that. But it was attitude. That's all it was. It was no miracle. I didn't wave a wand. I'm not, nobody came and said, hey, now we got all this extra, we're going to hire a bunch of extra people. We just hired the right people who wanted to work and who wanted to be great. And a Ferrari is probably a great car. I've never owned one, but it's probably a great car. But you can have a really great not Ferrari, right? There are other cars that are great, and it can be great because it's great for you, not because it's expensive or it's the shiniest. And when you move those barriers to entry and you don't make excuses for why you can't do it, yeah, I think that was a pretty cool moment. And I've done it, never on that scale. That was one of professionally the biggest wins of my career. That's one, obviously, I still tell that story today.
Yeah, that's really cool to me. In tech and the startup world, we have a phrase, the team you build is the company you build. And it almost seems like the team you build is the property you build, which is actually a new insight for me. I had heard people talk about, new in the sense that everybody talks about how the people component is so important, but this is actually almost like a live experiment that you saw firsthand, that changing the people and getting the right people with the right mindset will actually influence the performance of a property, which is super interesting to me. I guess, on the topic of building this new world of roles, how do you think more tactically these roles, let's say a leasing agent in the world of AI, should be redefined? What should, if you were to build the job description for it, what would it look like in a world of AI where AI should and will take all these roles? Because the other thing, Jon, is we are a society that has continuously evolved. And I think it's actually harmful in some ways to mislead on-site teams, to mislead people that AI is not going to automate things, because the reality is it is. And as a society, you can't change the gravitational force of innovation.
Right.
So if you're
misleading,
or should you? So if you're misleading people, I feel like the better approach to me would be let's actually re-educate the on-site teams and say, hey, AI is automating a lot of things. Like we've talked about, it's not taking your job. What is the new job that you should be focused on? So I guess in your words, how would you define the roles and responsibilities of a leasing agent or an on-site team member in the new world of AI?
I think it goes back to what we talked about a little while ago. I think there are always things. The challenge is going to be figuring out what truly makes the customer more pleased with you. And we all have an opinion, and you can do surveys until the cows come home. In my experience, when I see, we all live and die by online reviews. It's an easy metric when you search for something. If you pull up any of our apartment communities, the very first thing in the corner is our score, right? And you can read the reviews, and it puts the top 2 or 3 in a little box so you can get a sampler plate of it, and then you can dig deeper if you want to. When I see the ones that are less encouraging, the bulk of those are either, we weren't very nice to you, and I'm overgeneralizing, obviously, or we didn't keep our promises. We told you that when things would break, we would fix them, and we didn't. or it took us too long, or we didn't do it right. We said that when you asked for something, we would respond. We said that the pool would be clean. These are not all clearly stated things that we said, but they're certainly implied. When you lease an apartment, you expect if something, it's why you're leasing instead of owning potentially. You don't want to have to buy a new air conditioner. You want to lease or rent somewhere, so when the air conditioner breaks, you know you don't have to worry about it. And those are the kind of things, whereas we redefine these roles, I think it's going to be different across markets, across companies, and what are those companies' individual goals. But I think it all starts from a place of, what are the things, like I said a moment ago, what are the things that truly makes you come to one of my apartment communities and you have an interaction and you go, wow, that was different. That was memorable. What are those things? It's different for everybody, but you could probably aggregate a list and say, okay, we could all agree that these 10 things, these are impact points, right? What do I need to do to make you really good at these 10 things?
Yeah.
So that when these 10 things that we all agree really make a difference, right? If the light bulb's out for a couple days, you're okay. Your air conditioner's out for a couple days in the heat of Atlanta in July, you're a little less okay, right? So you really got to differentiate. It's not just work orders. It's what are the work orders? It's not just email, right? Some email correspondence I don't care about. I get junk that you're having a pool party that I'm not going to. I get junk that there's pressure washing next week and you need me to move my car, but I may not move it because I don't read your junk email. Whatever the case may be. But when I email you that my air conditioner is out, I need you to respond to that one. So what are those 10 things? And if we can aggregate a list of that, and it may not be that specific, but it's behaviors. It's fast response. But you say, well, that's AI, okay? But it's meaningful response, right? And I'm sure as AI develops, it will get better and better, and it will be able. I saw a demo the other day where somebody was showing us their version of AI, their tool, and they literally said, "Tell me about this and this," and they stopped mid-sentence and it pivoted, and it was like a little eerie, like how smart it's getting. But there will always be space for that, and so I think you're absolutely right. I believe in transparency. I think it gets you where you want to go with people. If you want people to trust you, then you have to trust them. Again, these things sound so simplistic, and I don't mean them to, but it really is a two-way street. And you've got to show people that you do care. And it's not just lip service. And it's not just I care because I'm in front of you, or I care because I don't need you to quit, or I care because, you're making $2 less an hour than somebody off the street that I'd have to hire, and you're great for my budget if you stay. I want you to stay because you feel valued. You like your job. Hopefully you love your job. And you love working here. And if I'm honest with you and I figure out how to maximize what you really enjoy, most salespeople that I've dealt with, the really exceptional salespeople, love people. They just love people. They love talking to people. When I was a leasing agent, I can offer to you that of all the jobs I've had since I've been doing property management, leasing agent was my single favorite. It's the least amount of stress, right? I didn't have to be responsible for evictions or financials. And I just got to meet people and talk. Tell me about you. Tell me about this couple that's sitting in front of me. Tell me about this dog that you've told me about. Part of it, because it was my job, you're supposed to ask those questions. But I just thought it was fun. I'm a people person. On the Myers-Briggs thing, if the E scale is 20, I'm like a 406. So I just love that stuff. And so for me, what can you do for me? If it's Jon, what can AI do for Jon? Jon doesn't like doing these, head banging against the desk. Thank you for stopping by. Here's what a 1-bedroom cost. Yeah, AI can have it. Have it. Bring them to me when they're really ready. Bring them to me when they're like, okay, AI's told them the price, the availability, all that kind of stuff. But now they need you to close the deal. And that's when my, juices get flowing as a salesperson. We have some people who are just, I have seen, we had this great customer service rep years ago at a really challenging property. And, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know that she's got enough. Like, they're going to come eat her up. And she just had this way about her that you would sit in front of her ready to just go bananas. And I would see it. I'd be parked at the property doing other things, but you just listen and you start watching after a while. And they would walk away best friends. Like, she just had this ability to just say, I like to hear you, but in a genuine way. right? But that takes time. It's like I was saying a moment, when you've got 87 other things that you're thinking about at any level. I'm so grateful to do this with you. But if all I was thinking about is I got to look at my phone, oh my gosh, what am I missing?
Exactly.
That wouldn't be right by you.
Yeah.
And that's our customers are no different. My son works at a fast food place. I'll talk about it and you'll figure out what it is. Because again, I don't know if we can name names here, but they just do customer service at a different level. And the expectations are at a different level. And it's why their chicken sandwich costs $6 instead of 99
I think
cents.
I know which one it is.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because my team jokes with me a lot. I have way too many slogans. I own it. I have a lot of slogans. They once made a shirt and put all my slogans on the back of it. And it's like, you're going to go blind from reading. So what you're telling me is I need to streamline my slogans is what you're saying. But that's just who I am and I got to own it. But years ago, I was giving this, kind of impassioned plea to my team that we have to be better and stronger. And one of my great associate of mine, she still works with Bell, but she's not in my world. She's in a different region now. And she said, so what you're saying is, I'm going on all this, like you can go these two places and they both give you a piece of fried chicken and it's got a pickle on it and it's on a bun and they wrap it in cellophane. But one place charges 99 cents and the other place charges $5. Like, we've got to be the one that, and so what she says is, she goes, so what you're saying is be the $5 chicken sandwich. Be the $5 chicken sandwich. And it's going to follow me to my grave at this point. But I'm like, that's it. Be the $5 chicken sandwich. And it's still chicken between a bun with a pickle on it. But that when you go to the place that charges $5, pretty reliably, the experience you're going to get. And the place that charges 99 can be a little bit hit or miss. And that is the easiest proof that people will pay for people that really try to be the best at their job.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. So I guess on the sales side, if we think about which it is, a property as a business, right? You have the leasing agents or the salespeople that are bringing in the resident. And then you have, the on-site team that is hopefully retaining that resident. What is it sounds like building a rapport and relationship on the leasing side is probably the single most influential driver that you can control to impact somebody coming in to the apartment.
I would agree with that.
What about retaining them? It sounds like you said reviews and maintenance. Is it just maintenance and getting, you mentioned those 10 things. Like what is at the top of that list? Is it maintenance?
I think to a large extent it is. I think we are typically someone's largest monthly expense, almost without exception. Even if you live at an A++, it's going to be obviously all scaled. In my experience, when somebody gets to me upset, it typically comes from that place of, hey, you do this long enough, you hear it. I spend a lot of money. You do. You're right. I don't argue. I'm appreciated. We do owe you a baseline. This is a baseline agreement that we've signed. You've got to uphold your end, right? You've got to pay rent on time. You've got to be a good neighbor. You've got to be a responsible citizen of the property. Please don't throw your trash everywhere. Pick up after your dog. We expect all those things of you. It's fair that you have an expectation of us. When something breaks, we should fix it in a reasonable amount of time. We may argue what reasonable means. Your definition of reasonable may be 2 minutes, mine may be 2 days. We can have that conversation, but we, in bulk, should agree on that. I think what I find Rapport does in any avenue of life, Rapport with consistent follow-up especially, gets you the benefit of the doubt. Bad things happen.
So checking in, did it get fixed? And just
check in when it's not a fire, when it's not a 911 situation. Like, it's easy when I'm ready to just go bananas. It's easy to call and be like, oh, John, are you okay? Did we do it okay? Call me when you don't know that I'm upset. Call me just because. How many, and again, we are a little bit different because we are not transactional in the multifamily industry, or even in the rental industry in general, in the rental home industry. How many times in your apartment life has someone called you just out of the blue or emailed you just out of the blue just to say, just checking in? I mean, we started doing it years ago at a company I worked for, and people thought we were hiding something. Like, what do you know? Is something going on? Like, is the other shoe about to drop? That's just how skeptical people were because it didn't happen. When you only reach out with bad news, people will expect when you reach out, it's bad news. When you reach out to just say, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay. Haven't heard from you. Saw this work order got done. It was a mundane work order. It was you needed a new air filter. Wasn't anything that was going to, if it didn't happen, your quality of life would probably be relatively the same. But I just want to make sure it happened. Didn't happen. Was Pete nice? Was Pete the maintenance tech? Did he, was he okay? Pete was great. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then when the bad stuff happens, a couple years ago in Atlanta, we had this really bad freeze. Obviously, I'm in South Florida. We have hurricanes down there. It's just a fact of life. But in Atlanta specifically, we had this really bad freeze. And the buildings in Atlanta and the most part of the South just aren't built for that kind of weather. And we had lines breaking. It was really tough. Like we had to, and it was I believe Christmas Eve. It happened. Timing was terrible. But when you, and I'm not to say that people weren't upset with us because there's a lot going on. It's stressful. But when people know you truly have been trying to take care of them, they will lean in and they will say, hey, I know this stinks for me and this is not great, but I also know that you're going to do everything you can to try to rectify it. And it may not happen on my schedule. I may want it to happen faster or differently, but it looks different than when every time previous to that, they've asked you for help and you have failed them. And you have no benefit of that. You have no rapport, or whatever rapport you have is bad.
You know what that reminds me of, John, is, I feel like I've had this conversation with a bunch of people about how usually multifamily is a little bit further behind than hospitality, student housing, single family, et cetera. But you know what I think is really interesting is what it sounds like you're saying is it all comes down to the experience you cultivate. For example, like let's say I just thought of this as we were talking, but let's say I was a resident at a property, a Class A property, and I go to the gym at the property a lot, and maybe I have to check in or something or scan my card or whatever it is. It would be if I was a resident and somebody recognized that I was going to the gym 5 days a week. And 3 months into my stay, like the on-site team mails me a box of protein bars or something.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, I saw you go to the gym, like here's a box of protein. Like those kind of things are just so memorable, right? And sometimes I think about
why are they memorable?
Because it shows that the person cares.
But it doesn't happen. That's the other reason. It's memorable because when it does happen, you go, holy cow. That's never happened to me before.
Yeah.
If it happened to you every week, it wouldn't be as memorable.
Exactly. And you know what I would do? If somebody messaged me in a group chat or said they were moving to LA, and it was a neighborhood, I would recommend the property. And I would go so far as to bring up that incident. I'm like, yeah, dude, this property like literally gave me a box of protein bars that cost $15.99. But I would probably mention it when I'm pitching the property, right? And I think the goal for operators should be, and why I think technology is valuable is similar to this. You mentioned, you wouldn't be able to do this if you didn't have the time. I wouldn't be able to, travel across the country in an RV. The only reason we did that is we hired a sales leader where previously I was owning sales. Now a lot of it is taken off my plate. I've been freed up to make time for what I think is important for the company. And I think similarly, like these are the kinds of experiences that I feel like on-site teams should cultivate when AI allows them to free up their time.
Exactly.
And you have all the time. Cultivate the experience of sending a personalized protein box because you see this person go to the gym or you have this relationship. Use your time that way. Right?
I agree.
Because that creates this like, it creates this like almost like magnetic bond that if you do that at a 300 unit building and you personalize the experience for 100, 150 residents, like those residents are going to be your marketers, right?
Absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's where I guess in a long-winded way I was trying to go. Like, let's use AI and let's leverage it so that when you're walking down the hall and I see you when I'm walking down the hall because I'm doing my daily duties and I see you go to the gym, man, he's in the gym every morning. I should really do something gym related for him. Exactly. And then I've got so many things to do that by the time I get back to my desk, I'd forgotten it completely. And then I see the next morning and go, oh yeah, I really should. But let's use AI so that when I see that, I can go, I should really, like, this cat's really into the gym. I should take advantage of that. And then I have the time to actually follow through on it. Because my brain's not going 88 miles an hour. You know, I use the number 87 a lot, so I was trying to get off of 87, try to go to 88 just to mix it up.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you see the resident has a dog, and like maybe you get them like it's Christmas, you get them like a cute like little dog Christmas sweater.
Well, and all offices have the dog jar now.
Dog
with
treats.
But
I think the key is personalization.
Yes,
Remember,
that's my point.
That's what
like,
you were saying.
That's like price of admission. Dog
Exactly.
treats in the office or price of admission. Like, what are the things that aren't? What are the things that are memorable because they're personal, they're impactful, and they show that you actually pay attention. And when I'm talking to you, you actually listened. Or when I'm walking through the hall, you're actually noticing, like, me. People, we all want to feel special. We all do. It's not a bad thing, I don't think. I mean, maybe at some places they can do more with that than others, but you're with us typically for a year. We're pals here. We're going to be buddies. So, like, let's make it the best experience. So, to what years ago, the great, I worked for a gentleman named Fred Twomey at Equity Residential, and I worked with him at another shop after that. And Fred's one of the best people I've ever met. And he used to just say, happy residents, say nice things and they stay longer because they're happy. And you will, could you move? Yes. Is the place down the street offering 8 months free and the pool that overlooks this and that? And yeah, they're doing all that. But you'll go, but you know what? I really like it here. And I like going down to the office and seeing, Jennifer. She's always so kind to me. And she knows that my dog's name is Max. And she pets and Max loves Jennifer. And when I call a work order, Dave shows up. And Dave always has a smile and he fixes it. And if he can't fixes it, he says he'll be back tomorrow. And then he actually shows up tomorrow. Like, people will go, yeah, I could pay less, but I like it here. And if we can if we can create that, not that we can, do everything for everyone, but if we can create an atmosphere where we're bringing people in who genuinely care about what happens to our residents and to their teammates day to day. Doesn't mean things won't happen and whatnot, but if we can take tech and say, here's all the things you're so good at, we want to make you better at them. We want to train you and we want to nurture you and we want to help you grow, and we give you the space to do it. Like I said, that's where the magic is, man. I mean, this is a very simple industry. We complicate it a lot, but at the end of the day, people want a home where they feel at home and they feel like people care about their outcomes. And if we can create that, we'll win a lot more than we don't.
So you've been in the industry for
too long. So it's okay to say it.
You're
You're old, John.
multiple decades. No.
1998.
1998. So almost 27 years, and you started as a property manager.
No, I started a part-time leasing agent.
Part-time leasing agent
in college. Yes, sir.
And now you're in operations. I feel like you've also had this this incredible lens on how the industry has evolved, how technology has evolved. Where do you feel like the problems that exist, on this theme of personalization, allowing on-site teams to personalize the experience, what else can be automated by technology that should be automated that you feel like isn't being done today, right? We have the AI leasing agents, we have, collections tooling. Where do you feel like the opportunity is for technology companies to come in and further automate things that should be automated that you're not seeing today?
That's a really good question, actually. There's so much out there. Sometimes, like, it's overwhelming. You go to some of these conferences and trade shows, and you're like, there's just a solution for everything. Like, you just get buried. Like,
yeah.
I'd like to pilot half of this stuff, but I don't know that I can get my head around it. Or that, legal would review the contracts and be like, why are you handing us 80 contracts to review? We don't have this kind of time.
Exactly.
I don't know that I know the what's next. I do know that one of the things I think about multifamily, it's interesting, we were having this conversation internally a few weeks ago about a project, a few months ago maybe, is we tend to be very set in our ways. When I started in the apartment industry, and I'm sure you've probably heard this in your travels, we had the 1 per 100 rule. one office person, one maintenance person per 100 units. I heard this rule in 1999 when I became a community manager, and my amenity set was a treadmill and a pool. And that was it. Treadmill and a pool. And so over time, the gyms have gotten bigger. The pools have gotten fancier. We've added dog parks and pet spas and all these cool things. And yet somehow we've stayed at this 1 per 100 thing. And it's like, there's a lot more going on than there. I mean, I remember that, all we did was collect rent and hand out keys, and that was it. And it was 1 per 100 then. And now it's like, you got to do a walkthrough and you got to do this, which is all good stuff. Like, it's stuff that should happen, but we're still, 1 per 100. And it's like, okay. So, we are an industry that at times, I was very fortunate. I had done multifamily for a long time, and I got a call to do single family rentals. And this is when single family rentals was still very much a new sport. Like, I went to work for a company. I actually got a call from Fred and from a gentleman named Brad Hull, one of my mentors. He said, hey, kind of thinking about doing this thing. Do you know anybody? And I'm like, well, I know me. That sounds cool. I'll do it. I like you guys. We had fun at Equity, so let's do it again. And we did, and it was the Wild West, like, because nobody had ever done it. Like, Invitation Homes was trying to figure their thing out. Starwood, we had these other shops all trying to figure it out. We were all trying to figure it out. And it was great because the innovation, like, you were innovating things you didn't know you needed to innovate, but you just had to find solutions. And so what I think we can do, one of the things about that is necessity is the mother of invention. It's been around for a long time, but it's still true to this day. But we had the space to problem solve. And I was talking about that a little while ago. I think what is next, I probably don't even know, because I'm not there every day. One of the things that I find the most interesting when I'm doing property visits, and I've said this for a long time, and I probably have said it too much because people think it's like just saying, hi, how are you? Is I always usually end with, what can I be doing for you? Because I want to know. Like, if something's broken, tell me. If it's not broke, I can't fix it, or I certainly can't try to help. And so I think it's all part of a larger circle of life. It's all part of a larger atmosphere. If we can give our folks that room to problem solve, they will come to us. They may not have the mechanics of, I know how to code and I know how to create, but they'll come to us and say, if I could just get blank off my desk, if I could just get blank to be done, I could get my, preventative maintenance done faster, right? Some of the stuff we've seen from when I started, the maintenance tools that we offer now. I was very lucky when I was young that, along with being a part-time leasing agent in college, I did maintenance for a while because that's where the need was. And frankly, I needed a paycheck. So they said, hey, we don't need you in the office, and go do some maintenance. And I didn't know anything about maintenance. And I'm still not really great at fixing things, but it gave me awesome perspective to understand what that side of the table is like. And it's hard. And, getting on a roof when it's 100 degrees outside, to troubleshoot an air conditioner when there's no shade, I mean, that's hard work. Crawling under a building, because you got to figure out what the shutoff is for a pipe that's leaking. That's hard work. And, I think a lot of the innovation we think about sometimes is office, right? Automated email, automated collections. There's wins on that side of the table too. And, we've got to give that team space to say, like, you want this property to be clean, and you want everything to be fixed, and you want everything to be shiny. And I want that to help me. Where's my space to breathe? Where's my space to innovate? And so I think you're seeing that. We use a few programs that are built around, efficiency and, guys not having to go back to the office to turn old school work orders in, and automated responses to say, hey, I fixed your this and that. Please contact us if there's any issues. What is the next evolution of that? How do we, get it to where, those maintenance teams are truly, feeling like, hey, I can innovate, and I can diagnose, and I can problem solve. It's not just, here's your stack of 10 work orders, go. Here's your stack of 3 turns, go. It's got to be collaborative. It's got to be inside and out. Because if you think about it, in a lot of ways, the maintenance team talks to our residents much more than the office does. I mean, if you pay your rent online, and you put your work orders in online, and you do email or text, You may see me when you move in, but you may not see me again, especially if you're happy. But you'll put a work order in, and then, Pete or Sally comes in and fixes your work order, and you notice how Pete and Sally behave, and do they do it right? Do they leave a mess? Do they knock? Are they friendly? Do they smile? Do they act like they want to be somewhere else? Do they, come in and, just genuinely want you to have a good experience? But we have to free them up too, because they're seeing a lot more than we see. At least typically, not always, but typically.
Yeah, and you feel like that's an information silo in some way?
I think it can be, because I think not everybody feels like, I don't know that not everybody feels confident speaking up, right? A lot of that can be cultural. There's some shops, I'm sure, that are like, hey, you're hired to do a job, do it. Whether that's said out loud or just kind of everybody kind of under their breath knows. And there are some shops where you spend so much time talking, you don't get anything done. And then people get frustrated because, like, I told you all these things you could do to make my life better, and you didn't do any of them. So I think there's certainly risk in that shop, because if you think about it, a lot of times when you go to a product, you walk into this office, right? Maintenance team typically isn't there. They're out and about. They got stuff to do. They're not sitting in the air conditioning all day waiting for the phone to ring. So, do they feel heard? Do they feel like they can be heard? Do they feel like, hey, if I have an opinion, I can say it? I think you have to foster that. I think you have to foster that. No role is more valuable from an information sharing point, or arguably at all. I mean, if you don't have a maintenance team, I don't care how good your salesperson is, because those people you lease to, they're going to move out because they're unhappy, and they're going to move into units that aren't ready and that look like they may not move in at all. And you're going to have a frustrated salesperson who's going to go, why am I doing this? Like, I'm killing myself trying to move people into this property, and you keep, none of my units are ready, and none of my residents are happy, and they're calling me. I mean, they're mad at me. So how do we get everybody to chip in?
How do you think about the trade-off between optimizing for a really, really strong point solution, but having dozens of tooling to manage, versus using something that is more comprehensive, but potentially trading off feature set?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We're kind of talking about some of that stuff right now. Everything, I'm sure, is good in theory. All solutions all ideas come from a place of making life better. They don't always go that way, right? Things start one way and kind of veer off. I think you have to figure out what works for your properties. It sounds pretty easygoing, but it's true. Just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Works in your market, doesn't work in my market. But I also think you have to be willing to listen to the people that are affected by it. I can sit in a room with a bunch of my colleagues, and we can all dictate, here is the program that's going to save your world. It's going to change your life. You're going to be sending me a Christmas ham. You're so grateful for what I've done for you. And you're going to get it and go, this is the worst thing I've ever touched in my entire life. Do you feel like you have the space to say that? Do you have the space to come to Jon, knowing Jon really loves this, and go, Jon, it's not what you thought it was? Do I have the space to hear you? Do I have the confidence? Do we have the collaboration? I don't know what the right answer is, but what I do know is that I have to trust the people who touch it every day, that they're not just saying no because they just don't like change. We all know that's a real thing. I like the way it's working. Why are you even messing with it? But they go, okay, I'll try. I'll give it a whirl. If you're willing, the exchange, though, is you're willing to go, when it doesn't work, you're willing to hear me. And sometimes we may have to say, look, I get it. I wish it did X as well. It'd be really cool if it did. And there is a tool that does X, and it would be cool if we had that tool, but we don't. We have this one. And it would be great if it was all in one program, and it just earth shattered, and it was great. But that may not be realistic. But I hate to beat the horse here. It all comes back to those relationships and that rapport you have with your team. And what is that culture? Do you have a culture where we all buy in and we all go, we're going to try this because we think it's best for all of us and the company and the customer? And if you have that culture, you will probably be okay. You will try things and they will fail. But people aren't going to go, oh my gosh, you wasted all my time.
What about on the corporate side of things? whether it's back office tooling, accounting tooling. I don't know how involved you are in that world, but
Not quite as much. That's kind of
yeah. But one thing that I've heard consistently is ownership reporting, pretty time consuming. Is there anything on the corporate side of things that you feel like AI can be useful for?
I think we've done some, like a lot of our ownership reporting is relatively automated now. I think this is more of a John thing than maybe an industry thing. I just am constantly wondering who is reading these reports. That is the question. And full disclosure, we have a couple groups, they do. I know they do. Because I see questions. I'm like, you are truly reading this. And then for others, I feel like it's checked the box.
Most of them are not.
So it's like, I just think the best gift we can give our teams is it's a very similar what is adding value? You property owner, if this report does nothing for you, then let's just be honest. I'll send it to you. We'll put it in a folder, and if you ever need it, it'll be there. But I've been on calls, and I'm probably guilty of it too. I'm probably the most guilty. Let's be clear. You did a variance report, or why are we over in that? Well, I've just clearly exposed that I did not read the variance report. Otherwise, I would not have asked that question. So I'm perfectly guilty of it. I'll own it. I'll own my piece in this. But I think there's probably a lot of stuff out there that you can do. I'm sure that, where you're housing some of your back office accounting, back office IT, some of those solutions, where can you do that from as a conversation that is a fair one to have? It's not waters that I'm deep in, but just peripherally, I've been around long enough to kind of know there are multiple solutions. But I think a lot of that starts with it goes back to the adding value. What does this report add value, or did someone 10 years ago tell you we have to do this report? And so we've been doing it for 10 years. Yeah. We had a report just the other day. This is again a true story. We'd been doing this report internally, and do something with it, and my boss gets on a call and says, we're going to stop doing this report because they've been doing it, and no one's looked at it since July of last year. So we're gonna stop doing that report now. And it's like, probably should have looked at that report. But yeah, we probably can get rid of that one. It's probably not adding. Maybe it's a problem we solved. Maybe it was a need at the time. It was something. Hey, it wasn't on our radar. This put it on our radar. But we have to. It goes back to my comment about we're slow to change in multifamily. Because sometimes I do feel like we've always done it this way. And it has to be done this way because this is just the way we do it. And I'm sure there are those things that are just like, hey, they're non-negotiable. I wish we could, but we can't. But the more you can open yourself up to, sure, there's not what if we did this? That'd be kind of cool. And, there will be times and places where it's easier to try those things. I understand that. I've been around long enough. We still, at the end of the day, have a financial responsibility. And so you just can't pilot everything. You just can't test every wild idea that you have. But you do have to have room to hear them when they happen, and a culture that fosters them and says, speak up. Like, if you got a cool idea, let us know about it. Or if you need a solution. I think that's the other thing. There's so many solutions out there that sometimes I think it's very easy to get bogged down. I don't even know where to start. And then the risk there is potentially, are you solving a problem that doesn't really need to be solved? Like, do you find some cool piece of tech? You're like, oh, this is really cool. Well, maybe it is really cool. It's the coolest tech you've seen, but it's also not something your people are dealing with. So you feel like you've really given them a win. And the reality is they're like, okay, yeah, this didn't help me at all. Not one iota. And, that's tough. But I don't think anybody does that because they're out of pride or ego. I just think sometimes you see something cool and you're like, it's so cool, it must help. It has to help. Can't be this awesome and not help. But it's really not something that maybe in your world people are. And
you feel like that's business dependent.
I think it's business dependent as long in the realm of you have to understand what the needs of your properties and your people are. What you're good at and what you're not good at. I work at a company where we have our own marketing department, our own construction. Bell's pretty vertically integrated. Not every shop is. So you do have to go kind of outside those walls to find solutions because you just don't have them internally. So you really have to understand where, to me, it's all a big puzzle. Where do the people fit? Where do the products fit? How do they all line up? if we can get them all to sing from the same sheet of music, all pushing towards the same thing, and everybody buys into the other, like we all know we're working towards the same goal, and all these things we're layering in are to get us to that goal. But I have to understand, what is my marketing team good at? What is my IT team really good at? And that's going to be, I've worked at shops where we didn't, like the IT department was one person who just happened to be, I think, good on computers. I'm not even sure. Our marketing person was just somebody who liked, websites. I don't know that they were a marketing degree or had formal training. They just really, and somehow, some way, they just couldn't put into that role. They may need support that somebody on our team, where we have very much layers of that, does not need.
So tell me about your origin story into the industry. How did you get there? So you started as a part-time leasing agent.
I did. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. Grew up on the coast. Turned 18. Decided I needed to see more of the world, and so I did not apply for any in-state schools. And so I got accepted to a couple schools. One was the University of Miami. One was the University of Georgia. So my mother, who's the best, said, I can guarantee you 1 year at Miami, or I can guarantee you 4 at Georgia. What do you think? And I said, well, I don't think they're handing out a whole lot of 1 year degrees at Miami. So let's go to Georgia. And like most college kids, I burned through cash way too fast. And I needed a job. And where I was living at the time, I had, to this day, one of my really earliest, greatest mentors, a gentleman named Herbert Abrams. He was the best. Everybody called him Herbie. He's about 5 feet tall, just this old dude. He was an Athens legacy. His family had been in Athens forever. And on the weekends, I would go and talk to Herbie because he was just exceptional. I mean, no full disclosure, I stole his shtick when I moved to Atlanta because I knew he wouldn't have cared. But like, I used to hear him talk to kids and he'd make them laugh, and just like I was the same. I rented it. This was a dilapidated, old, wasn't close to campus, but it's cheap. And that's why I think I moved in there. But it was him. I was like, yeah, whatever you're selling, pal, I'm in. You got me. And in the course of talking to him, I was in that office so much. And they're like, do you want a job? And I needed the money. And, frankly, working at a college apartment complex as a college kid is kind of a cool job because you meet other college kids. And I interned with the U.S. Marshals downtown Atlanta. I was a criminal justice and poli-sci major, and I had to do my internship. And when that got done, my mom, same mom that helped me pay for 4 years at Georgia, was like, well, you got to get a job now. Good luck. So I didn't really want to go into law enforcement because you're doing the U.S. Marshals thing, kind of just starting. It was a cool experience, and I didn't really want to do that. And my girlfriend, later to be my wife, didn't really want me doing that either. And I said, well, the only other thing I knew how to do is lease apartments. So there was an ad in the paper because I'm old, and that's how we did things back then. And I left them a voicemail, and they called me back, and I went and interviewed, and they hired me fresh out of me. I was literally 2 weeks out of school, and I leased apartments, enjoyed that for about 6 months. Then I got bumped to assistant manager because that's just what you do in our industry. You become a leasing agent, which is the crazy. I've always said this. I don't know why you took a kid, and I was a kid back then, who's really good at sales, and said, now let's make him the person that calls you when your rent's late. That makes total sense. Take the guy that's really outgoing and the residents love him, make him the collections guy. That'll make sense. But we did it because we all did it. We still do it to some extent. And about a year later, I became the manager, and then it just cycled and cycled. And, I've been very blessed. I could name drop a lot, but I'm not going to because I don't want to leave somebody out. Not name drop like people I know, but people who have helped me. But I'm going to inevitably leave someone out, and I'm going to hear about it. And I don't want to do that because there have been a ton of people who have invested in me and looked out for me and, allowed me to be who I am. I'm people who know me best, I think, know that, what matters to me the most, and I've always been transparent about that. Like, you get what you get with me. I'm not hard to read, but I think I try to be sincere, and I try to be self-aware, and I want people to enjoy. My hope would be that one day the people who I've been lucky enough to work with will go, working with Jon made my world a little bit better. Whether it's 0.1% or 1%, I know it's not an ego thing. I just, my mom was a hard worker. She did a lot to help, my brother and I. She was a single mom when I was born, and she kind of put that in me. Like, there's no excuses. Like, you can work hard, you can strive, but you can also be good to people. Like, be a good human being. That matters. That is your legacy. I want, one day, when I'm kicked over, people to be like, man, he was a good dude. Like, he truly tried to be nice to people. Because that's the legacy that I want. And, it comes from my mom a lot. My wife keeps me humble and honest and tells me things that I need to hear. And I've just been very fortunate throughout my career to just work at really cool places with really great people who I could learn from, and try to be better through them. And I mean, that's about the most you can ask for, I imagine. So,
what do you feel like is next for you? You want to stay in the industry for the rest of your career? Would you ever?
So, some people are going to laugh if my friends watch this. So I'm a huge Disney guy. I make no bones about it. I love Walt Disney World. We go a lot. I'm a Disney adult. I own it. I have a tattoo of Mickey. No, I'm just kidding. So we go a lot. My kids grew up Disney. My wife and I honeymooned at Disney World. We're annual pass. I mean, we're invested.
You're a huge Disney guy.
Mouse has got a lot of my money. Yeah. Let's be clear. The mouse has got a lot of my money.
Wait, so as a kid, you were really into Disney? And then
it really became later.
Oh, it's like an adult thing.
It's crazy. Like, people are like, oh, so you must. No, we went like twice. I don't know what happened. But my wife and I, just went on, like I said, went on a honeymoon, and we're like, oh, well, we should go again. And so we did. And so over time, we just, we're fortunate enough we could go more. And, a lot of the things I feel about customer service, and it truly is from the way Disney does it. I mean, just people say, why do you like it so much? And it's because of how I'm treated when I'm there. The whole world truly goes away. They make me feel, for the most part, like I am the most important person. And it costs a lot of money, more than I wish it did, but I truly feel that when I'm there. So how can I be a little bit of that? So the dream would be to retire young enough to move to Florida and go get a job at Disney and just make people feel, my kids are older now. They're 21 and 17. So they've been going to Disney since they were, yay high. And I've seen just kids, now that my kids are out doing their own thing when we're there, I see, the, little girl that's got the princess outfit on, or I see the little boy that sees Mickey Mouse for the first time. And I go, man, that's magic. That is absolute. I wish I could make people feel that cool. And so I don't know, to be a part of that would be fun. I think work is great. I enjoy what I do. I work with wonderful people. But to me, a lot of this is, I can't wait to retire. I have an awesome wife, and I can't wait to see the world with her. And my kids are going to do cool stuff, and I want to be able to go see their cool stuff. And hopefully they'll want to come hang out with mom and dad. Hopefully we've been cool enough that they'll be like, we'll come crash. So, or at the very least, I'm going to spoil the bejesus out of my grandchildren. So I'm going to hand you back a child that is just completely rotted on candy and Disney, and you can thank me later.
Well, Jon, this has been awesome, man. I feel like
likewise.
This has been super unconventional, actually. This is the first podcast where I kind of started with more industry stuff, and then we ended with personal stuff, which is interesting.
We're going to get into our favorite bands now,
and I feel
right? We haven't gotten to that, or
we haven't gotten to any
what
of that,
TV shows are you watching?
Yeah, I feel like it's because it just flowed really well, and it was just like really easy to talk to.
I think so as well. I'm glad.
Yeah, and
I'm uber grateful for the op. I mean, it's really cool to take part in this, and I love what you're doing. I think it's something we should be. I mean, we are a people industry, and we will always be. So let's bring good people into this multifamily world.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jon. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Likewise.
This is great.
Yes, sir.